Hello and welcome to Search Warrant. Boy, we're in for a special event today. So Jake and John are on special assignments tonight, and we're here with.
Hey, Bill, silence your microphone.
Okay, I can't see me.
All right, there we go.
So we're here live with Sean Connelly of JoshShapiroFried.com, and we have Bill Lawrence of Bill Lawrence Online, and Bill's is a journalist. Hey, Bill, we're just getting a lot of bleed over on your audio. We hear your screens.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, and I hear a lot of background feed, and your screen is black. Okay. So, Sean,
we'll let him figure that out.
Hello?
Yeah, Bill, all we hear is birds and Steve Black's buddy.
All right.
Yeah, so if
I
you
can't
could just
see me, I can't hear me.
Maybe mute it, get out and get back in, or use another appliance.
Yeah, Bill, go ahead and back out and then try to come back in.
I can see me on I can hear me on the TV, but I can't hear you guys on the phone.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of background noise from the Bill. It's kind of drowning out everything.
All right, that's
Hey, Bill, I just log. There we go. Okay. Yeah, because he's having some technical difficulties. So
he definitely is.
Yeah. So thanks for having me on the show again, Greg. I guess everybody's having some technical difficulties today, but I guess the background of what I wanted to discuss today with Bill, and hopefully he can get his technical issues resolved. Bill's an investigative journalist. He's been reporting on election fraud, child sex abuse cases, perennial guardianships, corruption within the political arena, specifically Josh Shapiro, who was the governor of Pennsylvania, and people that lead up to him, whether lawyers, judges, police officers, law firms, big construction developers. And over the last, I believe it was 2 years or so, that you guys have allowed me to come on your show and speak about different topics with both Leah Hoops and Greg Stenstrom and other individuals. As we basically peel back the layer of the onions, it's been pretty amazing to be able to come onto your show today and tell you about the things that we talked about and reported on, whether a year ago, a year and a half, or 2 years ago. A lot of these items or topics that involve corruption across many arenas, Bill has reported on it in real time from the ground, not knowing what the outcome would be, but we were essentially doing predictive outcomes in our reporting and in our investigations. And that's one of the reasons why I asked Bill to get on the show, because he's covered a lot of these topics, whether election fraud, child sex abuse fraud, the Josh Shapiro fraud, the Toll Brothers fraud, the corruption of how money changes within the courts, and how cases get disposed of. A lot of these judges have turned into political activists. So I'll just give a real quick background to your viewers, how I came to this point, and then we can kind of get into what I wanted to talk about, and maybe Bill can join us again and kind of recap the things that he's reported on, advocating for a number of different individuals. And he's really one of the best people when I say it comes to grassroots reporting, because a lot of what he's reported on has gotten to national media outlets from the grassroots. So, so my background, I have a background in law enforcement and electronic security. I am a security expert. Bill, can you put it on mute? We're getting feedback when people are talking through your phone or your computer. Just mute it until you're ready to talk.
Yeah.
Basically, Bill has been in the trenches with us, whether in Delaware County, Chester County, reporting in Bucks County, Philadelphia County, even on topics such as Donald Trump or Leah Hoops and Greg Stenstrom's, defamation lawsuit in Philadelphia that we all were involved in some way or another. But leading up to the current events, several weeks ago, I was held at gunpoint by 20 to 30 police officers and Montgomery County detectives as a result of a 2-year covert investigation, which essentially was a result of my investigations exposing corruption within the courts, exposing corruption with different law enforcement agencies, exposing corruption with judges, exposing the cover-ups of the Kids for Cash, child sex abuse cases, rapes, murders, and even the kickbacks and money laundering with our governor, Josh Shapiro, whether it be through Toll Brothers or other law firms or unions, which is a topic in the news now because the primary elections were just yesterday here in Pennsylvania. So we were once again devastated by the Democrats and the Communist Party. But on March 11th, I was held at gunpoint by 20 to 30 officers. I was in the process of looking for a new apartment. I moved out of an apartment in Malvern, and I'd been there for almost 2 months. And I was exposed to gas leaks that the management at the apartment complex did not take care of. So I had moved out, and my intention was to stay in an extended stay place or a hotel until I could find new living arrangements. And why this was going on, Greg, there was a series of events that led up to me being held at gunpoint by these government gangsters and thugs. The Montgomery County Detective Bureau that falls within the Montgomery County District Attorney's Office. As I had stayed at a series of hotels generally in the Chester County and Montgomery County area, days leading up to or even after moving out of the complex. While I was living in Malvern, Pennsylvania, I came across what I believe were drug cartel members or human traffickers that were living in my apartment complex. My apartment complex was, I don't know, I would consider it an upscale apartment complex. Unbeknownst to me, there was at least some level of drug dealing or human trafficking or high scale prostitution ring going on inside the apartment complex. And given my background in security investigations, I had started to, become a little more aware of people coming and going in the facility in the parking garage, and ran into some individuals that looked suspicious. I encountered them, had an interaction with them. Clearly, they weren't state troopers or FBI agents. That's the reason why I approached them. But they were doing something illegally in the apartment complex. Reported it to management, with the gas leaks going on. A few days later, one of the individuals that I believe to be a cartel member or someone was connected to the drug ring or the prostitution or human trafficking ring, I caught him a few miles away from my apartment complex doing surveillance on me. And this was several miles away, and I knew his truck, and I swung my truck around, followed him. And to make a long story short, this individual was the individual that was living in my apartment complex that I believe to be whether communicating to cartel or human traffickers. At that time, Greg, I was actually in communication with the director of ICE and DHS in Philadelphia. I had been reporting tips with illegals as well as other fraud and DEI and federal programs that were being abused or wasted to either house, transport, or cover up the location of these illegal immigrants. And people were sending me tips, and as I was sending those tips, the DHS and ICE were acting upon them locally in the area. So a lot of people knew, not only with the rollout with ICE into these communities and neighborhoods to get the illegals out of our country, I'd also been investigating and reporting on corrupt judges for 2 years. Bill was aware of this because I had been communicating with a president judge. Her name's Carolyn Carluccio for 2 years. I haven't released our text conversations, but I will in the future. Carolyn Carluccio was running for Supreme Court in Pennsylvania against Danny McCafferty. She did not win, but she's the president judge that oversees all the other judges that I either assisted bringing some of these victims that were wrapped up in miscarriages of justice with these corrupt judges in Montgomery County, everything from child sex abuse to the Toll Brothers fraud cover-up with Josh Shapiro, the other judges that forged signatures. Now, this was just going on in Montgomery County at the time when I first found out, but would later find out it was going on in Montgomery or Chester County, Delaware County, Philadelphia County, and Bucks County. So the corruption, where I uncovered it was with my case, but it only got worse when I started meeting other individuals. Some of them have been on your show, such as Jody McMahon, who's been trafficked through the courts for, I want to say 7 or 8 years, along with her sexually abused children for many years. And the significance of her is she had direct conversations with the governor of Pennsylvania and the inspector general, which the two of them covered up the child sex abuse, including the judges that were wrapped up and most likely involved with the retaliation against me and me being held at gunpoint several weeks ago. So the reason it's important your viewers know this is because all this stuff was discussed on your show, and Bill reported on it through news articles that he wrote or investigated or spoke to different individuals, whether Jody McMahon, who was on your show, Dr. Nicole Gross, whose daughters and children were trafficked through the courts, who had a military expert in a court hearing with the same judge that was assigned to my PFA case, Judge Tate Wilburn, covered up the child sex abuse even after an Army psychologist that testified in R. Kelly and P. Diddy cases. The same judge was assigned to my case. The same judge that was assigned to Jody's case that, when she was handcuffed and dropped on the ground, was also assigned to my case in the past couple of weeks, as well as Judge Virgil Walker, who was assigned to Jody's case, and Judge Carolyn Carluccio, who's the president judge that oversees all these judges, and the same judge that I had been communicating about the court corruption and the miscarriages of justice, where she's a judge and has a legal responsibility to report it to whether federal agencies or higher agencies, and she did not. She was complicit. So leading up to, again, where I was being held at gunpoint, all these individuals that I helped out, whether victims or Bill reported on or had disclosed to the public through his local reporting, whether the election fraud, the child sex abuse, the Kids for Cash, the Catholic Church abuse scandal, the Toll Brothers matters, the stuff between Josh Shapiro and his connections with Valar Kush and some other individuals that are all tied to our governor, that are essentially they're fixing court cases. They're activists. They're controlling the narrative through elections, but they're also controlling the narratives of pretty much a lot of court dealings, whether criminal or civil, based on political favors and retaliation and kickbacks. And, the significance of, what had happened to me and, on March 11th in the afternoon, literally being rushed at gunpoint in the hotel I was staying at, was surrounded by multiple police officers, multiple detectives. None of those police officers had a copy of the warrant. They didn't know what they were there for. They were radioed and called to participate in a 302 warrant, which is essentially a behavioral mental health warrant where you take somebody into custody that was whether reported to have mental health issues or other psychiatric issues. And it was at that time when I was held at gunpoint that I realized that everything that I uncovered, I investigated, that Bill reported on, other podcasts or TV interviews I've been on, even with like Emerald Robinson, or discussions I've had with Ann Vandersteel, even stuff that has gotten to Dan Bongino or Alex Jones. All of these items that were discussed or on my website or discussed on your platform or Bill had reported on, that lawfare came back at me twofold that day. And I was shoved onto the ground pretty hard, handcuffed to the point where my wrists were pinched, my knees were scraped up. And when I was being taken into custody, I was very loud and boisterous to make sure that everybody who was in that hotel could hear me, that these corrupt government gangster rogue, I call them defectives because they're defective cops. They could never make it out on the street as a real beat, trustworthy, integrity police officer. So a lot of these corrupt detectives work for corrupt district attorneys that are essentially funded by George Soros and, and supported by folks like Josh Shapiro. Again, Montgomery County is the seat and home of Satan's spawn, Josh Shapiro. That's where he started out his career in corruption, and flipped the Republican seat of many years to a Democratic seat. And his ties to Mike Verb, who sexually harassed Katie Muth with a $300,000 payout on taxpayer dimes. These are all items that brought me to the day of me being held at gunpoint and then taken involuntarily to a mental health facility called Building 50, or the Montgomery County Emergency Service Building in Norristown, Pennsylvania, which is a psychiatric facility where a lot of whether prisoners or people that have mental health issues or family members or homeless people, that's where they're brought to be evaluated for mental health issues, or if they're suicidal or have drug problems or some other threat to the public. And I didn't realize until, I was being placed in the back of the police car and looking around, and I'm like, man, all these police officers and detectives are here for me. And as I'm being placed in the back of the car, I'm yelling to some of the guys, and I'm like, turn your body cameras on. None of them would turn their body cameras on. One of these nasty Montgomery County detectives came up and got in my face and said, you can't get out and do that to a person, and made references about my social media posts as to the reason as why I was being taken into custody. At that point, I hadn't seen any warrant. I'd asked for a warrant, asked them to turn on their body cameras, and seen a couple of these government gangsters just pacing back and forth because I was being loud. I was being boisterous. I was getting the attention of people around me, because it was pretty scary for the people in the hotel lobby, not just for me.
It was.
You're being held with assault rifles and pistols as sliding glass doors are being opened. And, God is going through my head at that point in time. I'm like, am I going to die right now? Like, what's going on? But I always had this feeling in my stomach that something wasn't right, that I was being surveilled for probably more than 2 years because of what I uncovered. But the time period when this all started, Greg, was about the same time that I assisted Jody McMahon and filing an FBI complaint against Josh Shapiro, Michelle Henry, Liz Early, Liam Duffy, Judge Virgil Walker, and Josh Shapiro and some of these other people. And I was very good about it. I would call these agencies. I would record the phone conversations if it was a voicemail, or if we got a live agent. It didn't matter if it was a children and youth office. But this particular day, when the FBI agent contacted Jody back, they wanted to contact me directly, but I instructed Jody not to loop me into the call. Well, to loop me in the call, not to have the FBI agent loop me into the call. So she followed my instructions, got her husband on the phone at the time, who was a Honeybrook police chief. And the conversation didn't last very long, Greg. It lasted a couple minutes. And some of the discussions we talked about were Josh Shapiro, Michelle Henry, the child sex abuse, the Facebook messages with this FBI agent, who essentially was becoming he was trying to ruffle feathers. And, he was the one that made the suggestion about the Kids for Cash and the Catholic Church abuse scandal, after we had mentioned that Josh Shapiro and Michelle Henry were complicit and involved in covering up the child sex abuse, because at that time, Josh Shapiro was running from his attorney general office, abandoning his post to go be for governor. And so he didn't want any of this mud on his face and didn't want to be smeared, just like the Catholic Church abuse scandal. It's in the news again when he was personally responsible for covering up the Catholic Church abuse scandal. Because again, I have another victim that was one of the original 14 or 18 victims that was grand juried by Josh Shapiro when he was the attorney general, and John Fetterman and Doug Mastriano and Mike Verb were all in the Harrisburg Rotunda that day when they cut a deal with these 18 Catholic Church abuse victims. And Josh Shapiro sitting in a back room listening on a camera and an open mic, so the victims wouldn't see him. But John Fetterman was there, Doug Mastriano, and Mike Verb, and essentially negotiated a deal with these Catholic Church abuse victims without representation of private counsel. The Scranton Archdiocese essentially acted as their counsel, and the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office. And they basically had them all sign NDAs, and they gave them a certain amount of money, or as I would call it, as hush money, no different than Katie Muth that took close to $300,000 of taxpayer money. And essentially, I believe Josh did that for two reasons. One, to keep his image good, because Josh doesn't like being tarnished, whether his little tiny size, his figure, or being defamed. And he, I believe, personally set up a recurring, endless invoicing scheme for all these law firms to represent all these Catholic Church abuse victims, so they can continue to bill out for for Catholic Church abuse scandals, whether here in Montgomery County at the old St. Gabriel's or at the St. Michael's up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, or one of these other archdioceses in another state. And, see one of your viewers, Nancy Gifford. She's a good friend of mine, good Republican woman. She's tuned in right now as making a comment. But yeah, Calvin Wilson was on that phone call with the FBI agent that day, along with myself and Jody. And that was the only day I did not record the phone call, because I had to leave where I was at, get on another phone, because I didn't want them tracing where I was at and knowing who I was at, because I knew that the Philadelphia FBI office was pretty corrupt. You had former U.S. Attorney Jacqueline Romero that was there. She vacated when Trump was sworn in. But you also had Jason Huff, who's a corrupt FBI agent that was essentially a head of that field office covering up child sex abuse cases and other matters. Personally, I believe he was involved. He has a relationship with Josh Shapiro that sent out the special agents to Leah Hooks and Greg Stenstrom's homes and another individual in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, back in 2020 when they were trying to intimidate them. But yeah, so on that phone call, Calvin didn't say anything. He kept his mouth quiet. Jody was very upset. She couldn't control her emotions. At some point in time, the FBI agent kept threatening to end the phone call. I'm going to hang up. I'm going to hang up. I kept calling him out, and he said he was playing devil's advocate. And I'm like, why are you playing devil's advocate? You got a police chief on the phone. I said, you have a former military law enforcement, a security expert on the phone, and then you have the victim on the phone. And so this phone conversation, there is now a witness. So this FBI agent became very apprehensive when he heard there were more than two people on the phone call, including a chief of police. So that was a time period, I believe, they started surveilling me, was about early October, when we had placed several phone calls to some of these individuals that we were going to file FBI complaints, to give them an opportunity to come clean and be honest before we filed the FBI complaints, including Liz Early and Mary Pugh, who's now a judge. She was a director of MCAP. You had actually talked about this before, Greg, which is a non-for-profit that's being run out of Montgomery County. It is on my website. If you scroll down, you can actually see.
Right. That's one of the things that stick in my head the most, is that so you have active government attorneys for Montgomery County for Child Protective Services, or attorneys that mitigate Child Protective Service cases in the county, who started an NGO, and they fill the back end after the disposition of the case. So that's how the money is going. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. I guess where they hold it tight, Greg, is they try to keep them encapsulated in, with the children and youth, as there is an actual child abuse case, whether there is or there isn't. As long as if they're in the system, that's where it's almost impossible to get out of the system. So I actually had a woman call me. Her name is Alexandra. She lives out in California. She was one of the first women I saved from going from to jail in Montgomery County. She flew in the night before, and I had Catherine Sherlock, whose daughter was murdered, who's the founder of Caden's Law, and Jody contacting me, asking me to show up at Montgomery County Courthouse to help this woman out, because the Judge Wendy Demchek Alloy, who was also on the MCAT program, who was a founder, along with Risa Furman and Mary Pugh, and I would later find out Kevin Steele, who's a district attorney of Montgomery County, also sits on that board, or he's a decision maker. But the significance of this is that these programs are non-for-profits, but these attorneys are billing out endlessly against these families, whether defendants or plaintiffs, as well as for social workers to sit there and moderate a phone call between an angry husband and angry wife, or in Jody's case, her sexual abusing husband, Sean McMahon, who abused all of the children, that the children are still custody with, and those children are going to have all kinds of psychological and mental health issues, probably now, but well into the future, because of the courts and systems like MCAP and Mission for Kids, which every state, every county, they may have a different name for it or a different term, but it all works the same. The judges are getting kickbacks, the attorneys are getting kickbacks, the children and youth agencies are getting kickbacks, whether the attorneys that represents the children and youth office, but it keeps everybody in business, keeps everybody working in jobs. I know people that work at Mission for Kids. I know people that work at the children and youth office. I know people that work at the district attorney's office, the attorney general's office, special agents. We have special agents within inside these agencies, including within inside the district attorney's office that funnel information back to me and other people with other district attorney's office and sheriff's departments, because people don't trust their leadership, whether in a law enforcement role, a guardianship role, these children and youth, or CPA protective services. It's no different than the elections. I think people just gave up on elections here in Pennsylvania, especially Montgomery County, because it's so corrupt. We have the Dominion voting machines here. I had the opportunity to go into one of these tabulation centers. I was signed in by one of the county commissioners who's Republican, who I can say on your platform is corrupt. Okay, Tom DeBello, along with Neil and Jamila. These people are in it for themselves. They're in it for their higher office, their higher agency. They're glorified, in their own minds. Like, they don't care about helping the people. We're looking at all their finances. We're looking at their relationships, whether the county commissioner, the governor, the lawyers, the judges, the corrupt chiefs of police, or the corrupt special agents. We've connected all of them. We have the receipts on every single one of them. And it's based on shows like yours, Greg, and John's, and Jake, and even Bill's reporting and other reporting that allowed us to get that information out to the public and viewers before it actually happened. So now, essentially, a trial was held even before we went into court. And these bad actors, whether judges, lawyers, politicians, children and youth, guardian of lightums, are essentially now retaliating against me, and other individuals. So a lot of these people that you see on this website, whether X posts or news feeds, these are all bad actors. And if you click on the pictures and on the links, the stories there, the videos there, the evidence is there. And so, one thing I would like to convey to your guests is that with the work I've done volunteering and advocating for victims over the last year and a half, 2 years, whether it be Leah Hoops, Greg Stenstrom, Dr. Nicole Gross, Jody McMahon, Megan Heaton, Arthur Herring, myself, I've been retaliated against, not only by these bad actors, but even some of the victims. And these victims, I've forgiven them. They have trauma, and that trauma, has negatively impacted the decisions they make. And I'll give you an example and again, I'm not trying to defame Jody McMahon. She's had a lot of trauma in her life. And, she was brought to me by a woman, an attorney by the name of Renee Mazer. And Renee Mazer also brought to me Dr. Nicole Gross. Both of these women, Dr. Nicole Gross and Jody's children, were trafficked through the courts. They were both sexually abused by the father. Okay. And I'll use Nicole as an example. She's probably one of the only victims that didn't bring problems to my front door, or my family's front door. She's a very, very smart person. She's a caring. She looks out for others. Whereas Jody, I didn't have that same case. Bill even had the opportunity to interview her, report on her. And it wasn't until several months ago I found out through a documentarian that was working with Catherine Sherlock. I'm not going to mention her name because I respect her. I respect her work. And another woman that Megan Heaton, had communicated to me that Jody was in a sexual relationship with her attorney at the time, which was about a year and a half or 2 years ago, Marty Mulling, who used to be a district attorney in Montgomery County. Now, the reason I'm mentioning these individuals because Marty Mullaney, Judge Mary Pugh, Judge Carluccio, Detective Vince Higgins, Detective Paul Bradbury, Kevin Steele, Josh Shapiro, Judge Walker, Judge Tate Wilburn, Judge Wendy Demchek Alloy, Judge Furman, are all individuals that I discussed on your show, other shows that even Bill has reported on and wrote articles on. So you can be sure, as much as I still care about Jody getting her children back, that's the kind of stuff that you run into is when mothers get desperate, they do desperate things, but you also have corrupt attorneys that are taking advantage of victims such as Jody McMahon. And essentially, there's a conflict of interest between the lawyer, the judges, the sexually abused children, and the communications between Josh Shapiro and the advocacy work I've done for women like Jody McMahon or Nicole, or Arthur Herring, or anybody, or even Mark Schultz, who's a whistleblower and also one of my business partners, and was the one that blew the whistle on Toll Brothers and disclosed the billions of dollars of fraud, not only in my home, but other homes. And so what we had going on with me is actually happening in every state and every county. And it's not isolated to me. So now what they're doing to a lot of, I guess, people that are exposing the waste, fraud, and abuse, or investigating the corruption, or reporting on the corruption, or letting the corruption out to the public, they're retaliating. And they're retaliating whether sending law enforcement agents to blitz your home, swatting, or the newest technique is to have you committed to a mental institution. So now your political enemies are using the 302 mental commitment process to take out the people that expose them, such as me. And so, as Bill was mentioning earlier, it couldn't have happened to a better person. I'm built a lot differently. I come from a long line of Irish heritage and suffering and blood, sweat, and tears, and family members that literally died as martyrs. And, we don't tolerate shit from anybody, especially when it's corruption. And, when I was inside that mental institution for 2 weeks, the outpour of public support across the country was absolutely amazing. God was good. He looked after me. I prayed every day, and individuals like Leah Hoops that went to bat for me, and I know he doesn't like recognition or mention his name, Dr. James Walker, or James Thomas, excuse me, and Dr. Barbara Ellis, and Karis Kocher, and Jane, and Ruth, and Dr. Gross. And these are people that reached out to me locally. When I was inside, I had the opportunity to get small messages out. I was being threatened every day to be given antipsychotic medicines, given Haldol and Abilify. I watched barricade situations, stabbings, attempts to sexually engage me by staff, sexual assaults, medical episodes, people being over medicated. A lot of these doctors are foreign doctors abusing their medical script pads, including one of the doctors that is actively in a federal lawsuit right now in the Southeastern District of United States courts, Dr. Zaki. He worked for Brooklyn, but also worked for Eagleville Hospital. And he's associated with the district attorney's office. He's associated with the public defender's office and their mental health division. So this is another racket, no different than the Kids for Cash, the divorce proceedings, the real estate theft, the wealth grabs, the political retaliation. Is now the mental health industry. So not only are these people going to start profiting off of new mental health behavioral facilities, whether through UHS, which is a very big conglomerate that's under FBI investigation now with the military, the SEC, Blue Cross, Blue Shield. I can tell you that because I was one of the people to file those criminal complaints that did generate investigative actions from the FBI, the DOJ, the HHS, DHS, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, because it's insurance fraud and it runs into the billions of dollars. And you hear J.D. Vance and President Trump and other individuals talking about it heavily now, because this is where the concentration is going to be. So if you're Greg Highland, or you're John Snedden or Bill Lawrence, and now if you say something I don't like, I'm going to use the behavioral health system against you, and I'm going to get you 302'd. I'm going to have you committed. I'm going to silence you, and I'm either going to have you killed by injecting you with antipsychotics, or I'm going to try to kill you at gunpoint outside of a hotel because you exposed my crimes, or you exposed all my criminality or my involvement. And that's the reality of what people have to wake up and see what's going on. What started out with a small situation with my family. I'm going through a very contentious divorce with my ex-wife, Lisa Connelly, and I don't blame her. I forgive her. She's brainwashed. She's been triple vaxxed. She raped my children's mind. She's been in the public school system in her entire life. It's spread over into my family, including my brother Brendan and Aaron. They're woke, they're left, they're liberal. These people do not believe in God, faith, and convictions. And society wasn't that way. My ex-wife wasn't that way before. My brother wasn't that way before, or even my sister for that matter. We're in a holy war right now. And what I try to tell people is that if you're not getting out of your seat, sticking up for what's right, speaking the truth, sitting back and cheering everybody on, but doing nothing, things are only going to get worse. And at the end of the day, I won't change a thing that I did. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't break the law. I'm a highly respected individual. I'm a professional. I had top secret security clearances, child abuse clearances, FBI clearances, state police clearances. And because of the industry I'm in, it gave me a gift from God to be able to help out other people, whether through investigating, whether through my voice, through a social media platform, or being the guy, graced by God to even be on your platform and be able to tell all your viewers as to what happened to me, so that it doesn't happen to them, or what they can look out for or advocate. It doesn't matter if your parent was kidnapped through the courts, your son was murdered, or your daughter was murdered, they were raped, the election fraud, your home was stolen from you. There are miscarriages of justice that are going on to a level that people can't even ascertain. They can't even grab onto it anymore. So when I get up every day, I pray to God, numerous times, but during the day, but a lot of these people are still asleep. They're not awake. They don't see what's coming or the reality of what's going on. And, I just wanted to, thank you, Greg and John and Jake and Bill and all the other people that allowed me to use your platform to get my message out there. Because if it wasn't for you guys, the public wouldn't know about it. And I wouldn't have reporters from Fox News and NPR and WHYY and Fox News showing up outside the nut hut that they tried to kill me in for 2 weeks. And by the time I left there, the entire staff had respect for me, knew I shouldn't have been in there, came to me for legal advice, and advocated for me. Even inside that mental institution, people respected me, and they knew what was going on inside there, and how I got to that point was all waste, fraud, and abuse, and corruption. And yeah, even today, I'm still digging out of the corruption and the waste, fraud, and abuse, and to clear my name. At the end of the day, I know God's got my back. I know you guys have my back, and my friends have my back, and the ones that were there during some of those worst moments in my life, God was there for me, and so were my friends.
All I can say is, wow, Sean. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I can't imagine what that would be like to walk outside and then be, I've been on the other end of it. That you were in. That's tough. It's really tough. You're just for that. I mean, I think all the viewers know you because they're commenting on here. Yeah. You're very active. You're very active on X as well. Yep. And your webpage here, I'm going to share your webpage one more time up here, get it up on the screen here. So everything that you were just talking about as far as, up to date now, I think I've only known you for about 2 years being on the show, Search Warrant. But you have how many years doing these investigations and then getting them up on your site here?
Yeah, I want to say it's probably about 7 or 8 years worth of work between this website and tollbrothersfraud.com. Tollbrothersfraud.com led to joshshapirofraud.com, essentially through my investigations. I followed the money trail, followed the corrupt municipalities up to the county, to the state, and then was able to get actual financial receipts that Josh Shapiro was taking money from the founders of Toll Brothers for many, many years. And now we know why thousands of American homeowners had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, drain their 401ks and their kids' college saving fund, so Josh could continue to receive those millions of dollars from his family, friends, the Toll Brothers. That it's a publicly traded company now, but it's backed by BlackRock and JP Morgan and Vanguard and a lot of those other dark entities, which include George Soros. So, but thank you again, Greg. I appreciate everything that you've allowed me to share on your platform and get the message out. You guys have been very supportive, but we have a lot of respect and appreciation for what you guys do, because you guys know what's going on and you all have prior law enforcement background, so you can relate and you can smell the stink when you see it. So,
oh, you're welcome. You're very, very, very welcome. So one other thing we wanted to do is that we have this other screen here that we want to bring up so that the viewers can kind of get an idea of some of the people that you were talking about. And I will bring that up for you.
Yeah, and I think if you click on the website and click on that PDF,
okay, you just tell me where to go.
Yeah, so if you go on the website and the top right-hand corner, there it is. Okay, that's just a dot. So just stop right there. All right, so to your left is Montgomery County. I call him the defective attorney. He's the district attorney in Montgomery County, Kevin Steele. He was a first district attorney or something at that level when I was at the sheriff's department back in the early 2000s. Used to respect the guy back in the day, but he has since crossed tides, and he's definitely got a dark past. I actually was speaking to Leah Hoops the other day, and she was speaking to one of the county detectives that used to work underneath him, and had some things to say not so nice about Kevin. Kevin's not a good dude. He's put out memorandums deterring Abington Police Department, assisting DHS and ICE in their operations and apprehending illegal individuals. And as well as he covered up the child sex abuse of Upper Providence police officer who committed suicide that I spoke about on your show last spring. To the right of him is former Upper Marion police officer Thomas Nolan. He was just hired by the Montgomery County defectives. I don't call them detectives, they're defectives. When they can't make it to higher ranks or chiefs of police, they usually end up at the Montgomery County. But he was one of the people responsible in organizing for me to be held at gunpoint along with Kevin Steele. Below Kevin Steele on the left there, that's Lieutenant Detective Paul Bradley, a really cocky son of a bitch. He made comments that I was delusional. Never even met the guy a day in his life. And another defective detective at Montgomery County is just a flunky, a failure. What they don't know is they'll all be given the opportunity to speak the truth inside of a federal courtroom in the future. So to the right of him is Detective Vincent Higgins, or Defective Vincent Higgins. He's about a 5-foot troll. Again, another flunky, fail out. He would never be a street cop or be a respected police officer. He was essentially the lead detective that made material misstatements in the 302 application and assisted a couple of my liberal woke family members, Brendan Connelly, Aaron Connelly, and my ex-wife, in generating a false 302 claim to have me committed. Below there, the gentleman with the glasses, I call him birth control glasses. He was one of the gentlemen that meted me at gunpoint coming into the hotel. I believe he's a Royersford detective, so another dirtbag detective that didn't even know why he was there, drawing down on people that essentially would expose them. To the right here is Trooper Fantasia from Troop J, Embryville State Police. We had actually asked him to come out to provide security for me and Mark Schultz when I was staying in a hotel one night, as we believe there were suspicious individuals around the same time this cartel person, which he turned around, and I believe he was the individual that convinced my wife to 302 me and file a PFA, which I'm waiting for information to come back from the Pennsylvania State Police right now to confirm that he was providing legal advice because he was a bit frustrated and didn't know the law. And instead of rendering assistance to me and Mark, he engaged in criminal lawfare against me. So, but we'll deal with him later. Below him is West Norton police officer Jason Burton. He was responsible a couple of months ago for having me pulled over in Lower Providence Township. He is a West Norton police officer. I call him one of these, excuse my French, but he's like one of these brown-nosing ball lickers that, plays both sides of the parties, Democrats and Republicans, but he's friends with a lot of these corrupt judges and some of the district attorneys. So he has a direct relationship with my ex-wife, and he tried having me pulled over and arrested for a DUI because of his relationship with my ex-wife. Below him is the sheriff of Montgomery County. That's Sean Kilkenny, a corrupt Democrat sheriff. He's a former JAG officer, very heavy Democrat, supported Josh Shapiro. To the right of it, I know you can't really see it, but he also has a law firm. So while he's running the sheriff's department, seizing people's houses illegally, unlawfully, Lee is helping out some people down in Delaware County with some of the stuff that this corrupt sheriff is involved in. Well, he was also involved in, taking my weapons from me, but he brought in private attorneys from his law firm to represent Montgomery County District Attorney's Office when they 302'd and had me committed into a mental institution. He didn't know I would find out, but now he gets to find out inside of a federal courtroom. I get to depose him. He's a corrupt sheriff. He's a criminally corrupt sheriff, and he's been kicked off of several municipalities in his private law practice due to his corruption. So, and if you scroll down, that's the attorney from his law firm that was representing the county under county business to try to keep me inside the mental health facility. So her name's Katie Melcar or whatever. She's a pretty portly, well-fed, inexperienced attorney that was working diligently to try to keep me inside the mental health institution. Below her is Michael Boutier. He's with Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney law firm. He was the law firm that was basically reaching out to Leah Hoops and my attorney, Renee Mazer, at the time, even before federal litigation was filed against Brooklyn and UHS and soon the Montgomery County detectives, my ex-wife, brother, sister, and several of these judges that were involved at holding me at gunpoint and having me involuntarily committed and obviously causing reputational harm. To the left here is Judge Tate Wilburn. She's the corrupt judge that fixed the PFA paperwork last week. I know John Snedden was referring to her as Ilhan Omar. She does look like Ilhan Omar. She's definitely has the 10-finger forehead. If you put on a burqa, she definitely resembles her. She's just a DEI corrupt judge. She sat on Nicole Gross's case. That was the woman that had me kicked out of the room when I advised another attorney. She was under FBI investigation, covered up child sex abuse. If you can go back up real quick to that and stop right there. There's a picture of Josh Shapiro to the right of her with Judge Walker. That was the judge that was originally signed to my PFA, the same judge that is assigned to Jody McMahon's case. Just wanted to point that out. His picture is up on my website. And if you go ahead and scroll down, stop right there. That's Wendy Demchek Alloy, was responsible for Jody's case, Alexandria's case. I was able to save Alex from being arrested and put in jail. She was trying to protect her kid from being put back with a child abusing father. Actually, she just called me the other day because the woman next to her, Judge Mary Pugh, who used to be the head of MCAP, she was a private attorney. Her husband was tied to the law firm that was representing Toll Brothers in my case as well. But Judge Mary Pugh is some of the CYS and CPS cases I had thrown out that she fraudulently generated. She was in the 302 paperwork for me and the PFA case for me. It's since all disappeared since I won the 302 health commitment matter. To the right of her is Judge Karen Carluccio. She's the woman I communicated to for the past 2 years by text. She's the president and basically the supervisor of all these judges, allowing these judges to engage in complicity and cover up of corruption. And when I release those text messages, her complicity will come out as well as these other judges. It'll all come out. Below her is Judge Kelly Wall. Bill Lawrence reported on her. She had an attorney arrested in court for Dr. Nicole Gross. She called me that day and said that this Judge Wall just arrested my attorney in court. And I said, what for? Because the attorney had actually just started questioning the attorney on the stand about child sex abuse. So Judge Kelly Wall did not want the attorney asking the other attorney child sex abuse cases. So to try to stop it, she had him arrested in open court. And that was another matter that I reported on, exposed. Bill Lawrence wrote, and if you stop right there, I tried to find his picture, I'll find it, but she used to be married to Greg Nelson, and Greg Nelson's her former husband, and her former husband helped advocate for Judge Kelly Wall to become a judge. But Judge Kelly Wall was in the news on KYW News Radio when she had Dr. Gross's, Richard Ducote was his name, attorney taken into custody for asking questions about the child abuse of Nicole's 3 children. So below that is Judge Risa Furman. She sits on the Pennsylvania Judicial Disciplinary Board. She's responsible for covering up the murder of Ellen Greenberg, as well as covering up a lot of the dirty dealings of Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro appointed her ahead as one of the judges that sits on the Pennsylvania Judicial Disciplinary Board, so they can essentially control the narratives when there's bad judges. So Risa Furman is very good friends with President Judge Carluccio and these other judges. And to the right of Judge Risa Furman is Mike Ferb. He's the person that sexually harassed Katie Muth and the other woman inside the governor's office, which Governor Shapiro's emails all of a sudden disappeared. And Katie Muth is now showing back up at his rallies now that she got a nice payday on taxpayers' dime. And if you go ahead and scroll down there, Greg, that is Marty Mullaney. That is the attorney that slept with Jody McMahon. Okay, he is a seasoned attorney. He's been in private practice for double-digit years. He was also named in the 302 commitment for me, as well as the PFA. He reached out to Judge Carluccio when he discovered that I was the one that Jody had been sharing the text communications between Josh Shapiro and Michelle Henry and the child sex abuse. So, people can see more about that if they go on my webpage. But that man right now is not a very happy man. His wife found out that he was having an affair, and they were literally engaged in sex inside of his law practice. And I thought your viewers would like to know, because that's not the outcome of the stories that we work so hard to help these victims out, just to find out that, this person I was advocating for was also sleeping with one of these corrupt attorneys in hopes that she would get her kids back because the courts failed her.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you scroll down a little bit more,
there's the man of the hour.
A couple pictures of Satan's son right there himself, Josh Shapiro. And some of the stuff, if you go down a little bit more, some of these links are on my website. We actually had a professional media company make a little video, and the little Joshy video that tied Josh Shapiro about taking the money from Reed Hoffman that's connected to Epstein Island. I believe the release of that video being on my website, sending it to President Judge Carluccio, also put me at the ends of corrupt gun barrels and corrupt government gangsters. To the left of that post to the little Joshy video is Superintendent Andy Block. He's the police chief of Lower Merion Police Department. He has knowledge of child sex abuse. I was on a FaceTime call with him, and I believe his captain, Dr. Nicole Gross, her neighbor, and the abused child. About a year ago, I followed up with an email that he had a responsibility to report this to the FBI. He didn't. He covered it up. He's a duly sworn agent, meaning that he was sworn in duly as an FBI agent, but as well as the chief of police of Lower Merion Police Department. And the significance of this, Greg, is after he and I had this FaceTime conversation in the company of other people, I followed up with an email with Fox News and several other news outlets to hold him accountable to see if he actually would report the child sex abuse, which he did. Fast forward about a month or two ago, there was a shooting incident that happened in his township where a Delaware County police officer was shot and killed. They say he was in possession of child pornography, but this Collier guy had come into Officer Collier. He was from Marple or one of these Delaware County police departments, had come into my purview about 2 years ago. I don't know if it was Dr. Nicole Gross or somebody asked me to reach out to him. He might be a good person to report child sex abuse, whether with Nicole's case or Jody's case or one of these other women's case. Well, it's my understanding that same officer was shot and killed by two special agents in Lower Merion Township, where Andy Block is the chief of police, by two special agents who I believe were either one of them or both of them, or maybe not either of them, were the special agents part of the child predator unit out of the Norristown field office that I essentially interrogated inside their own interrogation room, inside the Attorney General's office, with a former New York U.S. attorney, Dr. Gross, and the abused child. Some of those pictures of me inside the Attorney General's office are up on my website. You can see the Hunter Biden laptop matters and the Josh Shapiro thing being held, and two of the special agents, one of them putting a hand over their head, because I knew at that point they were also going to cover up the child sex abuse, especially when photos of child pornography were being handed across the table to them, including flash drives and other computer information. That's why I was held at gunpoint amongst other things, reporting on Josh Shapiro's corruption and his ties in Montgomery County, covering up of child sex abuse, pedophilia within police departments, murders, rapes, real estate fraud, the Toll Brothers stuff, political retaliation, the election fraud stuff, kickbacks. And if you stop right there, the little kid that's sitting next to me, his name's Quinn Nelligan, and he was actually inside the mental health institution with me, and Leah helped get him out of there. He was one of the good guys that came to me, and I got to know him when I was on the inside, and I told him that I would help him, and that's what I did. And I reached out to Leah, and Leah did her thing as we were passing intelligence back and forth to make sure that we got him out of the nut as well. So,
wow. We have
those are some of the individuals inside the mental health facility. That's Katie Muth, who took the $300,000 payout at the below. The people at the top are women that worked inside Brooklyn that were responsible for covering up and keeping me committed inside the mental institution, along with the Montgomery County detectives and district attorneys.
wow. Thank you. That's one hell of a dissertation right there.
Yeah, so I'm alive, I'm well, and I wasn't killed.
Bill, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Bill?
You're on mute, Bill. Bill, I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah, Bill,
Yeah.
you're on mute. Bill, can you hear us?
I don't think he can. Yeah. Yeah. But,
So, what do you want to say about Bill? And I'll put up his webpage.
yeah. So Bill has been, by my side for a lot of this. He would show up to the courthouse or would show up to restaurants when I would bring victims to him to interview. He would take phone calls. But if you type in the search bar over there to right, you type in my name, you'll see a number of stories come up. You type in Leah Hoop's name, you'll see a number of stories. Bill has really been, I guess, dug in the trenches at the grassroots level, really reporting what gets up to the mainstream news networks that really make news. So the stuff that's out there now is not really the news. Bill he takes, I guess, the first information and a little bit of everybody. And he's a really good storyteller. He's really good at getting the truth out. He's good at putting links in his stories. He just covered a story about how Greg Stenstrom, who was sued with Leah Hoops and President Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani, just came out with a book, on how to represent yourself pro se. And so he's really good at getting the message out with whether the waste, fraud, or abuse, but as well as the victims and the people that are, I guess, the good villains that have overcome and conquered some of these bad actors or corrupt agencies or corrupt politicians.
Right.
Hey,
Bill, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Okay.
How about you? Can you hear me?
I can. Sean was just speaking on your behalf.
Yeah. So
Appreciate that.
why
I
don't we
really
let
have
you
some real
speak?
tech problems. I'm using my wife's phone right now. I don't know how this is going to work or not. But
It's working
yeah,
good.
I can't hear. I'm listening. I can't hear Sean on the phone. I can hear him. When I turn on the computer when I from my speaker.
Can you hear me now?
So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work, Greg. But
Okay, give it a shot and we'll see.
all right. Okay. How do you want me to chime in?
You can pick up wherever you want to pick up. We just introduced your webpage, and Sean was singing your praises for covering his story and Leah Hoop's story, and you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Well, okay, Sean, if you're there, and here I am. She's calling me an investigative journalist, which isn't really right. I'm more of, that's the sad thing about this. I'm just a basic journalist. I'm not, digging up anything hidden. I'm going to meetings, hearings that are public record and just reporting it. And this is the tragedy of what's going on, because once upon a time there'd be out and out outrage over what's what happened to Sean, what happened to I mean most of these people. Arthur Herring, I don't know if he managed to go into that, but he's a guy that was taking care of his mom, and the Pennsylvania system is worked so that if there is an allegation that the mother is incapacitated and that the caring son or family member is somehow bad, they can just basically put the mother or the parent in an institution, drug them up so they actually look crazy, and take control of their lives, and you use the state to pay for their slow death. Basically, is what it is. Arthur Herring is a victim of that. Mary Bush is a victim of that. If you got into to Josh Shapiro and his connections with the I know I heard Sean talk about Mike Verb, who was Montgomery County Republican Party chairman. Shapiro was also very close to Val DeGiorgio, and Val was the Chester County Republican chairman. He got Val's wife a job in Montgomery County, a do-nothing job. And anyway, Val ended up becoming Pennsylvania State Republican Party chairman. And he basically worked to get Shapiro elected. So this is what you're dealing with. And there was a whole lot of other local Republicans, types that supported him. But it's dirty. It's corrupt. It's inexcusable. They sent an army to arrest Sean, who was asking for a key. I mean, he wasn't out there waving a gun or being crazy. He was just talking, and they and wasn't the best part that called. It was I think he pointed out he was being tracked. That was Sean. You remember when the website was taken down?
Yeah, Bill, I can't really hear you. I don't know if it's just me.
Yeah, I don't think you hear that. Quite. Okay, well, back in last July, I put a story out about Sean and Shapiro, and boom, my entire website was nuked for it took me about a week to get it back up. This is right around. It came back up on the 4th of July. So and it was a lot of work to get it back up. But that was what we're dealing with. I heard Sean being saying for 2 years by these guys, and did it. Sharon is
Yeah, I think we lost Bill again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he must have.
Do you want to go ahead and finish up for him? We're over an hour right now, so we should probably be wrapping up.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and go ahead and wrap up for him?
Yeah, so I apologize. Bill's having some technical difficulties, but yeah. So I guess just kind of recap, with Bill, he's covered a lot of stuff on Leah, Greg, myself, Jody, Nicole, and including Josh Shapiro with a lot of his conflicts. I call Bill an investigative reporter because he shows up. He's asking the questions, looking into the things that aren't normally being asked. So Bill's good at what he does, and every reporter is reporting on what they see, and he delivers quality work, and he advocates for a lot of people that have been victims of miscarriages of justice, and through his writing and through his online platform. So a lot of what he's written about me, Leah, and Greg, whether in the preliminary stages, it actually came out to be true. Most of it, even stuff that we had the opportunity to talk about here on your guys' platform. So, Bill's definitely a knowledgeable guy and resourceful, and I know he appreciates you allowing to come on your show, and apologize about the technical difficulties, but I wanted him just to hear from his side.
This is the link to his website. So it's BillLawrenceOnline.com. I read about 7 of his articles last night. Very, very, very well composed, enjoyable reading. And very informative. I highly encourage everybody to take a look at it. Sean, it's been awesome to have you on the show. You've been through hell and back. Keep doing what you're doing, and we look forward to having you and Bill back on in the future. Sorry about all the technical difficulties we had today, and all of our pipe hitters are out either a different site or working somewhere else. So unfortunately, had to deal with me today.
No, it's all right. It's always a pleasure, and thank John, and I hope John's doing better. So,
All right. Well, take care and adios here from Search Warrant. See you next week. Same time, same channel.
take care, guys.